Hello, what's up everyone? As announced via the Animo space, we will not meet for the following week because it is independent learning week. So hindi pwedeng mag-synchronous classes yung mga teachers. And this is the reason why I delayed uploading the contents of your next module, which is on adulthood. But anyway, here it goes. This is now the module on adulthood, but you are on your own in this module. Kasi nga, wala naman tayong synchronous class. So we are still under lesson number 3 where we are currently discussing human development. Basically, I am constantly answering the question how humans change, psychologically speaking. Alright? So for today, we are going to talk about adulthood. We are done talking about the previous life stages, and adulthood is the last life stage that we will talk about here in human development. But before I dig deeper into adulthood, let me just share with you a passage from the Bible that talks about adulthood. Again, the Bible acknowledges the presence of certain developmental stages, and this includes adulthood. First Corinthians says, "When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put childish ways behind me." Basically, what this passage is saying is there is a difference between adulthood and childhood. But if we connect our past lessons, we can also include here that adulthood is different from prenatal period, from infancy, from adolescence. So, adulthood is a unique developmental stage on its own. There are qualitative differences that exists in adulthood that don't exist in other developmental stages. In fact, in our language, we have an expression when we ask someone to grow up. 'Di ba? Anong ibig sabihin nun? When you say to someone, you grow up, it means you need to practice more the characteristics of being an adult, which is very different from the other life stages. So when you say to someone grow up, basically you're telling that person to stop acting like a child, leave your childish ways behind, and begin acting like your age, and that age is, we assume, to be in adulthood. So that's the point of this passage, no, that adulthood is a very qualitatively different stage compared to other developmental stages we discussed. Now, adulthood is the longest stage in the human life. It ranges from age 20 until the day you die. That psychologists divided this period into 3 sub-stages: young adulthood from age 20 to 40, middle age 41 to 64, and old age 65 and up. So in this lecture, we are going to have an overview of what generally takes place under each of these developmental stages. Now, please, let's be realistic here. I cannot discuss everything because the video will be very long if I discuss everything. If you want to learn more about each of these sub-stages, sa Tagalog kung nakulangan kayo dito, then you can just consult other general psychology textbooks for this, or even developmental psychology textbooks if you want to have some advanced readings. Let's start with young adulthood from age 20 to 40 years old. What are the general things that happens to a person who enters young adulthood? Actually, it is during this period that we can say that we achieve the peak of our physical development, meaning this is the time that we are the healthiest. And the reason is because all of our physical systems have already achieved full maturity by this time, as in digestive system, skeletal system, endocrine system. All of them have achieved their full maturity, so we can say that we are already 100% developed at this period of life. But of course, this is specific to age 25 years old. Even if you are already 20 years old or 21 or 22, you are not yet fully developed. So the magic number here is age 25. If you are not yet 25 years old, then that means your body is still growing or it's still developing. Now, this includes the development of the brain. Okay, so it is during age 25 that we can say that your brain is already fully developed. And the implication of that is adults think differently compared to people who are under the younger developmental stages. Sa Tagalog, iba talaga mag-isip ang matanda kumpara sa mga bata in general. So the way a child or an elementary kid would think different from adult. The way a teenager would think will be very different from that of an adult. And what explains that? Well, of course, because of experiences, but let's not forget, it's because adults have a more developed brain compared to the brains of people in the younger stages. And this may explain why there will be a lot of conflicts between teenagers and adults, diba? And we remember this issue in adolescence. There is a power struggle. Most teenagers would like freedom from their parents. They would like to insist on their own ways. They like to do things on their own. While on the other hand, the adults are stopping them from doing those things because adults think that they know better. But given this development during adulthood, the statement that adults know better, meron naman talagang scientific basis yan. They know better because they had more experience, they've been there. They know better because they can think more comprehensively, more realistically compared to adolescents. So if you are an adolescent who is under an adult, you need to appreciate this truth, no, that when an adult is guiding you, then you can more or less trust that that guidance is aimed for your positive development. Kasi nga ibang-iba ang layo ng agwat ng mga adults compared to the teenagers. But then again, if there are any adults listening here, we should also not forget that the way adolescents think is very different from you because of their developing brain, and that should make you more understanding. Okay? So most adolescents, nagkakaroon sila ng mga disobedience. Sometimes they rebel against you, not because they're bad people, but this is the outcomes, okay? The behavioral outcomes, emotional outcomes of their developing brain. And your brain, being already fully developed, must understand that. Yan naman yung side ng mga adults. Another implication of a more developed adult brain is when it comes to education. Definitely the way you will teach an adult is different from the way you will teach a high schooler. That is why the curriculum is very different compared to the curriculum will be very different when you compare curriculum of high school and curriculum of masteral students. Remember, most masteral students are within their adulthood years, so that means you need to teach them differently compared to high schoolers or even college. Kaya, in the future, when you take up your masters in LaSalle, you will realize that the way your teachers will handle you will be very different from the way your teachers handled you when you were an undergraduate. Kasi nga iba na ang level of thinking, iba na yung level of understanding ng adult brain compared to a teenage brain. So if you really want to see or to experience how the adult brain is handled differently in education, then maybe it's appropriate for you to experience enrolling in a masteral program after you graduate. Now, during adulthood years, young adulthood years, Erik Erikson, the very popular developmental psychologist, has something to say. Well, according to him, most young adults face the issue of intimacy versus isolation. This is the main issue that young adults need to resolve at this period of their life. Because remember, according to Erik Erikson, whenever you enter a new developmental stage, no, you face certain conflicts and you need to resolve those conflicts within that developmental period. In the case of young adulthood, they are under stage 6, intimacy versus isolation. You just read this on your own. This is the problem, this is the conflict that most young adults aim to resolve within this period. Again, if you want to learn more about intimacy versus isolation, then you can read on your own. Okay, so you can read more about this, any books on DevPsych or any books on general psychology will do. Kung gusto nyong mas maraming malaman on intimacy versus isolation. But I just want to focus on the side, according to Erik Erikson, okay, that during young adulthood years, what the main issue of young adults is their ability to balance their two priorities in life, which is career or competence and intimacy. It is during young adulthood years that people are really into starting their careers and working on their competence, 'di ba? So dito mo na ina-apply yung mga napag-aralan mo sa college after you graduate. You begin to select a career that you will work on for the rest of your life. Do you become a banker? Do you become a businessman? Do you become a lawyer or maybe a doctor? This is where you begin to specialize in a certain field, and this is where you begin to get your salary. And this is the time that you begin saving money for yourself. Okay, you become financially independent from your parents, and later on you will use this money so that you can use this for your family in the future. But while you are hustling to work, don't forget that another psychological need that should be met during young adulthood years is to establish intimacy, meaning long-term relationships or future family. Again, this is in the language of Erik Erikson in his stage 6 of human development. Yan daw yung dalawang priorities that are taking the time and energy and efforts of young adults. So according to Erik Erikson, the challenge here is how a young adult can balance the two. Paano nila babalansehin yung pagbuhos nila ng effort nila to their careers and their ability to find a lifetime partner. And studies show, this is very important, that the young adult's ability to balance the two can more or less affect their overall mental health. So yung mga adults that are having difficult time balancing the two, they have one but not the other, may take a toll on their mental health. Well, one way to put it is this way: pwede ka raw bumagsak sa any one of these 4 categories, no? It can be that you have intimacy but you don't have career. You have a career but you don't have intimacy. You don't have a career but you also don't have intimacy. But the ideal condition of a young adult is you have both. You have a career and you also have intimacy. Once you're able to do that, then Erik Erikson will tell you that you have successfully resolved the conflict during young adulthood years, because you have both career, you're competent at something, and at the same time you have a stable relationship that you are currently enjoying. But when we talk about the two, going back, career and intimacy, which is harder to get? Career/competence or intimacy? It's more challenging to really secure intimacy with someone, because when you want intimacy, it takes the right person. Okay, it takes the right person who is in the same page as yours, okay, to make the relationship work. Unlike kasi sa career or competence, that's all about your own effort. But in intimacy, no matter how hard you try, no matter how good you are in maintaining a relationship, that other person has to be in the same page as yours. But many times during young adulthood years, they find another person and they work hard for that relationship, but that other person may not be in the same page as the young adult. So it's harder to secure intimacy. So the question now is, if intimacy is the harder one to secure, what can we do to more or less secure intimacy? Well, according to studies, one very important factor that will help someone secure intimacy during young adulthood is good social skills, and that includes a lot of emotional intelligence. Yes, you heard it right. That's what you need to increase your chances that you can secure that intimacy. You need to develop emotional intelligence, specifically your interpersonal skills. But the question here is when? When do you work on your social skills or interpersonal skills or emotional intelligence? This is already now the byproduct of all the experiences you've had from the previous stages, from prenatal period until adolescence. So I hope you see here how everything is interrelated in human development. So all the skills, all the emotional experiences you had in younger developmental stages can spell how good you are in establishing your relationships during young adulthood. So it's very important that emotional training, positive experiences are really started at a very young age. Okay, working on your emotional skills during young adulthood, it's already pretty late. Doon mo pala nga ayusin yung pag-control mo sa emotions mo. Doon mo pala nga ayusin o pag-aaralan paano mag-approach ng tao, kung paano ba makipag-date, 'di ba? I mean, all these things must have already been more or less taught or enhanced during the younger stages. Okay? Now, believe it or not, there are some young adults, they have a lot of relationship issues, especially during young adulthood years. Like, there are some young adults, maybe you know one, may mga trust issues. They cannot maintain a decent relationship or they are so afraid of commitments. Ito yung mga taong may mga commitment issues. There is this song written by the Eagles, I'm sure your parents know this, entitled Desperado. And if you read the lyrics of that song, Desperado, it's actually a song about an adult who I think is having some intimacy issues. And there are real life desperados out there, young adults with intimacy issues, and it's taking a toll on their mental health. They're afraid of relationships. They cannot enjoy the benefits of being in love with another person because of their relationship issues, which can originate from, again, the younger years of their lives. Meron ngang linya doon, no, yung song na Desperado. Let me read for you. Desperado, why don't you come to your senses? You've been out riding fences for so long now. Oh, you're a hard one. I know that you got your reasons. These things that are pleasing you can hurt you somehow. He's just playing along. He's just playing with relationships, but he does not have any plans to really settle down and enjoy a stable relationship. Kaya nga at the end of the song, no, yung gustong-gusto kong linya doon, sabi nung singer, you better let somebody love you before it's too late. Okay? So those are some of the issues that a person may have during young adulthood years. If you have any questions, you can just post those questions in the comment section. Now, from young adulthood years, let's now move on to middle adulthood years from age 41 to 64. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of your parents are within this age range. And again, Eric Erickson has something to say about this stage of life. Sabi ni Eric Erickson, people who are in middle adulthood years, they have a desire for generativity. Specifically, this is again about his theory in human development where people in middle adulthood years, they have a conflict named generativity versus stagnation. So people, middle-aged peoples, ang tawag na lang natin sa kanila mga middle-agers, alright? Middle-agers who would like to have a good psychological life during this time must able to establish generativity, while those middle-agers who are really struggling in their middle-age life will be under stagnation. So if you have a parent or if you have parents, you would like them to be in the generativity side more than the stagnation side. So let's just focus more on generativity. What is generativity? According to Erickson, generativity is a person's desire. It's actually a very strong drive to suddenly give back to the younger generation. They have a desire to contribute. Diba? So, the value during middle adulthood is very different compared to young adulthood. Young adulthood is all about taking in. Kasi binabawi mo yung tuition fee mo from college years, so your goal is to buy and to buy and to buy and to gain things for your own. You buy condo units, you buy your dream car, you buy all the things that you like because you deserve it, because you work hard for it. According to Erik Erikson, there will come a point in a person's life where he or she will lose appetite on gaining things for the self. By the time they enter middle adulthood, they want this time to give back to the younger generation. So from taking in, they want to give out. And there are many ways how they do this. Most people in middle adulthood, for example, especially the former athletes, they want to pass on the knowledge of the sport to the younger generation. And many athletes do that. I mean, after their playing days, after their heydays, after accumulating a large amount of wealth, they love the sport so much, they won't leave the sport after they retire. This time they want to guide the younger athletes, and they do that by coaching them. Okay? What else? Parenting is also another one way to satisfy the urge for generativity. That's why a lot of middle-agers enjoy parenting, especially when they feel that they are able to pass their knowledge to the younger generation. And a lot of middle-agers also teach to enter the field of education. And this is especially true in LaSalle or even in St. Benilde. Trivia: did you know that you have many teachers in our university? They don't even need the job that they have here in the school. They don't need to teach. They are well established in their fields. But they still choose to teach. They still choose to insert teaching time into their lives, because by doing so, they feel more fulfilled because they are able to satisfy their urge for generativity. Feel na feel ng mga teachers na kapag nagtuturo sila ng younger generation, they are making a big impact in our society, which is again a very important need shared by middle-agers. Alright? So, ganon, no? Maraming mga ganyang mga teachers sa LaSalle, talagang they don't need the job, but they just want to teach for the sake of giving back. Also, according to Erik Erikson, another word that he popularized is the word legacy. According to Erik Erikson, middle-agers have a need to leave a legacy before they die. They want to leave a positive contribution or a positive mark in the society, that even after they die, or even when they become old, people will still remember them for something that they have contributed to the society. And Erikson believes that it's very important that the urge to leave a legacy must be satisfied for a middle-ager to have a healthy mental life during middle adulthood years. So from here, we have an application that we can do in connection to our parents, no? So, di ba sinabi ko, most of our parents are in the middle age years, so this applies to them. Definitely, they have that urge to leave a legacy behind, and you, being their son, being their daughter, you have a very big role in determining whether they will be successful in that urge that they have or not to leave a legacy. So anong application ng pwede natin gawin dito? You help them feel that they are leaving a good legacy. That's one way how to make your parents happy. You satisfy their desire for generativity. You satisfy their desire to leave a legacy in this society. Okay? You need to show to them that hey dad, hey mom, you are doing a great job leaving a good legacy here on earth. That when you grow old or even after you're gone, people will still remember you because of me. I am your good legacy. So to be more specific, how can you make that happen? Number one, you study well. Diba? You know, parents, it means a lot to them when they see that you are doing well in school. When you give them good grades, when you show to them that you are motivated to study, when you show to them that you are concerned with your own future, they feel happy. Minsan, hindi lang sila showy, no? Hindi lang nila pinapakita na masaya sila when you do that, but I am assuring you as a psychologist that they do feel happy because you are satisfying their desire for generativity. So, other than studying well, in long-term speaking, you really need to make sure that you will graduate. I think that's one of the happiest days that a parent would experience, the day that they will attend the graduation rites of their sons and daughters, because that is the day that will officially confirm that they will be leaving a good legacy in this society. So I would like you to really promise yourself that you will graduate. Okay, you will graduate college, if possible, with flying colors, to really give back to your parents by helping them to satisfy their desire for generativity. There is another song that I want you to check out. This one is entitled The Leader of the Band. The author is Dan Fogelberg. That song perfectly shows how generativity works. Kasi yung song na yon, The Leader of the Band, it is a narrative about a band leader whose father was used to be the band leader of the band that he is handling. So he is narrating about his experiences when his dad was still the leader of the band. And so he wrote this song as a tribute for the dad who is already growing old. So parang in the song, the Dan Fogelberg is letting his dad feel that, Dad, you can grow old, you can rest there. You have done a great job shaping me to be the next leader of the band. In fact, in the song, there is this line that I really like. Let me read for you. The leader of the band is tired and his eyes are growing old, but his blood runs through my instrument and his song is in my soul. That's what you mean by legacy. 'Di ba? Yung yung nasaan yung legacy diyan, that even if the dad is no longer the leader of the band, well, guess what? His blood runs through my instrument and his song is in my soul. In a way, even if the son is already the leader of the band, but you cannot totally erase the presence of the father in his identity because the son is the legacy of his father. Check out that song. I'm sure your parents know the song. And also, class, another danger in middle age, middle adulthood is midlife crisis. We will no longer dig deep into this. I give you the liberty to decide if you want to read more about this, but it's actually a not a good thing during middle age to experience. A lot of parents, a lot of moms, a lot of dads experience midlife crisis, and it will take a toll on their mental health. So if you want to learn more about midlife crisis, you can read on your own, but we will be focusing on this when we talk about this in developmental psychology. Where does it come from? Why does it happen? What can we do if your parents begin to suffer from midlife crisis? Okay? Again, if you have any questions about middle adulthood, don't hesitate to post a comment in the comment section. I hope you're doing well there so far. Now let's move on to the last stage of the human life, which is old age from age 65 and up. Okay? So, in this part, we'll talk about what it means to grow old. If you are 65 and up, ang tawag sa'yo senior citizen or simple as old age. When do you say that you are already old? Well, that's an obvious question, no? Other than your chronological age of being age 65, what are some of the qualitative markers that will tell you that you are already old? Sabi ni Dennis Wolfberg, there's one advantage of being 102, there's no peer pressure. Bakit walang peer pressure? All your peers are already dead. Kasi 102 years old ka na, no? Siguro yung mga peers mo namatay na, no? Before you became 102 years old. Well, there is another slide here. In youth, the days are short and the years are long. In old age, the years are short and the days are long. Why are the days long in old age? Because you no longer have responsibilities. 'Di ba? Karamihan ng mga responsibilidad ng isang matanda pag old age na, nag-retired na, and some other responsibilities, pinasa na nila yan sa mga mas bata. So, ano yung mga markers so far? All your peers are already gone, you have less responsibilities, and maybe you already have grandchildren. Proverbs 17:6. Children's children are a crown to the aged, and parents are the pride of their children. Although maraming mga grandparents ngayon, no? Dahil maraming mga bata ngayon maagang nagbubuntis at age 40 or 50 grandparents na, right? Oo, pero hindi pa sila necessarily in old age. But anyway, malamang sa malamang, if you already have grandchildren, then most likely, but not always, you are already in old age. Now, the first thing that you need to remember that happens during old age is physical deterioration intensifies. Actually, the start of physical deterioration starts by the time you enter middle age. Young adulthood, you're very strong. You are in your peak physical condition for around 20 to 25 years. Then you enter middle age, you begin to feel certain aches in your body. Dumadalas na nagkakasakit ka. Dumadalas na may mga masasakit sa katawan mo. It begins in middle age. But when you enter old age, it is now intensified. Mas lumalala na yung mga nararamdaman mong sakit during old age. The arthritis, the blood pressure, and all the other physical things which may affect a person's well-being. Would you agree? I mean, if you are every day in the hospital, if you are struggling to withstand certain pains in your body, talagang bababa at bababa yung well-being mo niyan eh. Hindi mo na magawa yung mga bagay na gusto mong gawin because your body is too weak to do those things. It may affect your psychological well-being. That's why the application here is, how can we prevent this? Well, there's really no way to prevent the physical deterioration because that is the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, that we are all moving towards disorder, but the best we can do is to lessen or to minimize the intensity of physical deterioration. Question is how? How can you lessen the intensity of your physical deterioration? Yung hindi ganun katindi yung physical deterioration mo, you start young. That's a very important principle. Many old people, Alright? They begin to be more physically conscious by the time they're already old and they are already feeling pains in their bodies. Sabihin nila, oh, hindi magbo-watch na nga ako sa diet ko, magsisimula na nga ako mag-exercise, hindi na nga ako kakain ng mga unhealthy foods. They say that at age 68. They say that at age 69. Let me tell you, that's already late. You should have started, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. You should have started 40 years ago when you were not yet in old age. Imagine if you have been living a healthy lifestyle from adolescence until middle age, no? Hanggang middle adulthood. By the time you enter old age, you will experience physical deterioration but very mild. And I know a lot of old age people like that, no? Although they're already old, but the number of pains, the number of physical struggles they have, hindi ganun karami because they have taken good care of themselves during their younger years. So the same principle that you need to be applying today. Oh, may direct application kaagad sa inyo yan. Ngayon pa lang, alagaan nyo na yung katawan nyo. Okay? It's already late to take good care of your body by the time your body already feels a lot of things during old age. Another thing that happens during old age, although not all the time but very frequent, is the experience of Alzheimer's disease. This is the disease of the old. You cannot have Alzheimer's disease in younger years unless you have early onset of Alzheimer's. But again, Alzheimer's disease is the disease of the old. Alzheimer's disease, class, is a brain disease. So it's not a good thing. Huwag kang matuwa kapag may Alzheimer's ka or kapag may Alzheimer's yung lolo mo, because Alzheimer's disease slowly deteriorates your physical brain. Okay? It is actually characterized by extreme forgetting. My best analogy here is you are like a USB slowly, gradually being deleted. Punong-puno yung USB ng mga magagandang files, magagandang videos, magagandang mga ebooks, but because you have Alzheimer's disease, every day, those files are uncontrollably being deleted by the disease. Just to give you an idea, how the brain deteriorates if you have Alzheimer's disease, this is the brain of a person without Alzheimer's disease. Healthy brain in old age. But if a person dies of Alzheimer's and you look at the brain and you compare it to the brain of someone without Alzheimer's, it's very different. It's darker, it's smaller, it's lighter. You know why? Because literally, when you have Alzheimer's disease, these brain cells are literally dying every day. And it is those cell deaths that explain the different symptoms that people experience when they have Alzheimer's. Confusion with time and location, difficulty completing familiar tasks, misplacing items, so on and so forth. In advanced stages, ito na yung masakit talaga, no? It's very hard to take good care of someone with Alzheimer's disease in advanced stages because they already experience the following. They forget the recent events, their personal history, their special memories, and slowly they become useless. They become literally forgetful of the things that they used to know how to do. Yes, they forget how to feed themselves. They forget a lot of words. They forget how to swallow. They lose bowel control. And in the last stages, they would no longer recognize the people that they consider very special in their lives. I mean, isipin mo pa lang, di ba? Hindi na madali yun, no? Yung lolo mo, for example, which you love the most, hindi ka nakilala. Or dumating yung time na yung parent mo sa katandaan niya, hindi ka na niya makilala kasi nga merong Alzheimer's disease. So, it's really a serious thing, no? Yung Alzheimer's disease na yan that we need to watch out for during old age. So, what do we know so far about Alzheimer's disease? Well, what do we know so far about this disease is, number one, anyone can have it. Walang exception according to studies. Okay, wala siyang pinipiling ethnic background or educational background. Anyone who is at age 65 and up has a chance of developing Alzheimer's disease. Number two, it has a genetic factor, meaning if your grandparents have Alzheimer's disease, well, that makes your parents magkakaroon sila ng 50% chance of developing Alzheimer's disease themselves. And if your parents develop Alzheimer's disease, you being their offspring, when you grow old, you will also have a higher chance of having Alzheimer's disease compared to someone whose parents did not develop Alzheimer's disease, which confirms that Alzheimer's disease may be running within our genes. Nai-inherit talaga yung genes na yan, no? And number three, ito naman yung good news. Another thing we know about Alzheimer's disease is we were able to identify protective factors. In developmental psychology, when you say the protective factors, these are the different things that will prevent us, that will shield us from experiencing bad things in life, such as Alzheimer's disease. So what are some of these things na pwedeng magprotekta sa atin so that we will not have Alzheimer's disease? I'll discuss that later as I go along the lecture. Okay? So I want to close this discussion on old age by asking a question. So how do you have a happy old age? If you notice, I made the text here color yellow with a question mark. Bakit? Because many people find it hard to believe that being happy is actually possible during old age, because most people, they have that framework of old age, that everything goes down during old age, that all people are sad during old age because you are just waiting for your death. So many people, they have a very negative picture of old age. So I want to change that. It's possible that a person is already old, but yet he or she is having the best years of his or her life. And this is based on many researches. What are the different psychological factors that we need to have for us to have a happy old age? Number one, according to studies, we need to have, or we need to give old people attention and affection. Okay? So if you know someone who is old, you give this to them to make them happy. In the future, if you become old, you find a way on how to get this attention and affection. Now, in the field of developmental psychology, meron kaming tinatawag na empty nest syndrome. Empty nest syndrome is an experience by old people where they long for the presence of their sons and daughters, who during this time more likely have their family of their own already. Okay, so there are times that, of course, the sons and the daughters don't have enough time to visit mom and dad because they have something to do during the weekend. So please remember, kayong mga nakikinig sa akin, when you know someone who is old right now, please make an effort to visit them. Make an effort to spend time with them, because during old age, this is one of the things that they really long for. This is one of the things that can make them happy, when you give them attention, affection, time, when you make them feel that they are still important to your life. Kaya wag nyong i-abandon yung mga parents nyo in the future when they become old. You still make time for them. You still visit them. You still make them feel that they are still part of your life. That is one sure way of really making them psychologically happy during this period of their lives. Alright? Number two. Oops, sorry about this. Ayusin natin. Number two, another factor that can really make them happy during this time is involvement and engagement, according to studies. Ibig sabihin yan, old people are more likely to be happy. Old people are more likely to be happy when they feel they are still involved or they are still connected with the society. Meron pa rin silang silbi. Oo, that's one of the things that are very important to ensure to people in old age, to make them feel that they are still useful, they still have purpose in the society. Kaya nga, ang implication dito, class, is you really need to redefine what you mean by retirement. Because that's another word that we usually associate to old people, no? Pag old age, retired na yan si mama, retired na yan si papa, retired na si lolo, retired na si lola. But exactly what do we mean by retirement? There is a very unhealthy definition of retirement. And most people hold this definition of retirement. Ano raw yung retirement? Yung retirement daw, ano na lang daw yan eh. Wala ka nang gagawin, pahiga-higa ka na lang, pa-enjoy ka na lang, hindi ka na magpapagod, nood ka na lang ng TV araw-araw, yan daw ang retirement. Well, that is not a very good way to define retirement. Retirement does not mean you are no longer engaged. Retirement does not mean you are no longer doing things, useful things. It doesn't mean that way. There was this one author who said that retirement is what? A time to experience a fulfilling life derived from many enjoyable and rewarding activities. I want to emphasize that word, activities. So kahit retired ka na, marami ka pa rin dapat ginagawa. Marami ka pa rin dapat responsibilities. There you go. Again, very contrast or very opposite of how people understand retirement in our culture, which they expect wala ka na dapat gagawin pag retired ka na, tulog ka na lang ng tulog, kain ka lang ng kain, Netflix ka na lang ng Netflix. That's not right. That is simply not right. Retirement is just you stopping your formal work, but it doesn't mean that you are no longer doing anything useful in your life. Kaya alam nyo, in other countries, they promote their old people to still continue being engaged in their societies. Like, if I'm not mistaken, this is somewhere in Latin America. I forgot the country, but a Starbucks in that country allows senior citizens to be their baristas. Okay? Marami mga Starbucks doon sa country na yon na yung mga staff nila, mga old people. Again, to encourage old people to still be useful, to still be functional during old age. It's not good for old people not to be active anymore, not to be doing anything during old age. Mapapabilis lalo ang buhay mo kapag ganyan ka, di ba? Lalong-lalo na yung drastic change. You have been working for the past 45 years of your life and then all of a sudden, you stop everything that you're doing and then you just do nothing. That will speed up the development of your body towards death. So, again, we need to redefine the way we see retirement. Old people can still be functional and they even have a special role within the family, which is grandparenting. Okay? Which again, we will talk about that in developmental psychology. But old people can still be very busy even after retirement. Now, please don't think that during old age, everything goes down. Although, marami naman talaga ang pababa, no? Kapag old age ka na, marami nang bumabagsak sa katawan mo, but something else improves even if you are already in old age, and that is your wisdom. And that wisdom comes from your, guess where? From your age. From your many years of accumulated experience, now you become a wise person. Take note, wise person, not smart person. Those are two different things. You begin to have a lot of wisdom. You know how life works. You know what are the right things to do, what are the wrong things to avoid. Why? Not because you've read it from a book, because you've been there, you have done that. That's why in the Bible, there are certain books that I highly recommend you read because it will increase your wisdom because it was written by people already in their old age. Especially, which books? The wisdom books, such as Psalms and Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. Yung mga authors niyan, sinulat nila yan nung mga matatanda na sila to share their wisdom to the younger generation. So given this, one application that we can apply for people in old age is let's take advantage of the wisdom that they have. Let's enjoy the benefits of their wisdom. Hindi pa sila laos, kaya nga 'di ba? Dapat binibigyan pa rin ng role yung mga matatanda when it comes to decision making, because especially when you need to make a decision out of wisdom. That's why if you notice, a lot of corporate organizations apply this application, no? Their board of directors or the board of advisors are consist of who? People in old age, the seasoned ones, those ones na pabalik na. They are the ones guiding the ways, guiding the decisions of an organization because they have a lot of wisdom. Again, a lot of corporate organizations are doing that para makagawa sila ng mga magagandang decisions. They base it on the wisdom of old people. And you can also apply this in the personal level. Let's say you have a problem, meron kang mga emotional struggles and you don't know what to do, how to overcome this, you try picking up the brain of an old person. Talk to them. Most likely, because of their age, they know what to tell you. They know what you should do because they've been there many times. So it makes more sense to ask advice from an old person than ask advice from your fellow teenager. Ako mas pipiliin ko yung advice ng matanda kaysa advice ng teenager. Kasi yung matanda punong-puno ng wisdom yun eh. Yung kapwa mo teenager punong-puno yun ng hormones which may make the advice irrational. See? So if you know someone in your family who's old, please take time to talk to them. Ask advice from them, ask wisdom from them to improve your own life. Okay? And last one, number 3, another thing that we need to be giving people in old age para maging masaya sila is, guess what? You need to motivate them to stay physically and mentally active. Physically and mentally active. Dapat nag-e-exercise pa rin sila. Dapat hindi pa rin sila tumitigil sa learning. Hindi totoo na kapag matanda ka na, you can no longer learn new things. You can still read new books. You can still graduate from high school, di ba? I mean, if you're watching the news, paulit-ulit nang binabalita na may mga senior citizens at the age of 70, at the age of 75, graduate pa ng high school. It's never too late. The brain still works during old age and it's a need. It is a necessity that you don't stop moving, you don't stop thinking even if you are already in old age. And how did we know all these things? Because of the Mankato nuns. Mankato nuns are nuns who donated their brain to science. Okay? Itong mga nuns na ito, they have signed a document that after they die, they are allowing science or scientists to study their brains so that we can learn a lot of things about Alzheimer's. And by the way, I failed to mention that most of these nuns are suffering from Alzheimer's disease. But amazingly, a lot of these nuns having Alzheimer's disease are not showing symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. Their Alzheimer's disease, it seems to be, it's only in the physiological level. But in terms of their cognitive skills, in terms of what can they do cognitively, they are so good. They are still good in doing these things. Why? Because these nuns who have Alzheimer's disease and yet don't show in the way they perform cognitive things are physically and mentally active. In fact, yan yung conclusion ng study that even if you have Alzheimer's disease, you can slow down its progression by continuously being physically and mentally active. In fact, baka nga mauna ka pang mamatay bago lumabas pa yung mga symptoms ng Alzheimer's because you are so physically and mentally active. And I think merong magandang application to. If physical and mental activity is really good for people in old age, we really need to stop and change the stereotype of old people. Because in our culture today, yan yung stereotype natin di ba? Na kapag matanda na, ganyan ka na dapat. You're poor, you're frail, you're forgetful, you're slow, you're sick. Guess what? If old people believe this, it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. if our culture won't stop spreading this stereotype about people in old age. People in old age will absorb these ideas and they will act on the stereotypes that we give them. So instead of telling them that they should be like this, we need to reverse this. This is what science is revealing to us. That the more you are active, the more you are engaged, the more you are exercising, guess what? The happier your old age becomes. You don't have to be like this. And you should not be like this, especially during old age. Okay? So that ends our discussion on human development. Ang dami nating pinag-aralan from prenatal period until old age. Okay? So this video is accompanied by some readings that maybe that you will do, so that you will have a more comprehensive understanding of adulthood. And also, as you complete this module, don't forget the completion of your learning reflection. Alright? So again, if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to email me or post a question in the comment section of this video. Thank you everyone for listening. I hope you learned something about adulthood. I'll see you next week. Have a great day and God bless. Bye-bye.